whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have no offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff, guys. Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another live stream. A special welcome to all my new subscribers if it's your first time on a live stream, and welcome back to all of the regulars. It's lovely to see you. It's nice to be back. It feels like I've been gone for a long time. It's only been a week or so, but it feels longer than that. And there's lots to go through this evening. But I thought, I have been on a trip to the other side of the world, and I came back with this. Right, and what you'll see on there is $25 is 500,000 Indonesian rupiah. That's what inflation does to currencies if you're not careful, right? So just $25, 500,000 rupiah. I had to go and actually check, and I had to pay it in cash in rupiah, and I had 500,000. It was in 50,000 notes. And I think, inflation is probably amongst, I don't know, actually. I wish Housing Stig was around this evening. He's not, unfortunately. He's unable to join this evening. I don't know. I reckon inflation is probably the most pernicious and insidious problem that leads us to where we are today. But before we get into everything, I want to say to all of you, I've had so many private messages on Twitter. I mean, literally hundreds. I'm approaching 5,000 followers on Twitter, which is, just 6 months ago, I was like 500. So it's quite a big growth. And also on Instagram, and so especially Twitter and Instagram, I've got lots and lots of private messages. Loads of you asking me, hey, Charlie, this is my situation. What do you think I should do about it? It's impossible. It's got the numbers have got impossible for me to answer. So to those of you who really want an answer, there is a private buyers live Q&A club, which you can subscribe to, and you can leave anytime you want. But in those private live Q&As, the simple objective is to answer all questions. Okay, so if you really would like me to answer a question, then I will answer it live on the private buyers Q&A. The link to join, if you want to join that group, is at the bottom of the screen. buymeacoffee.com/MHWC for Moving Home with Charlie will take you there, and that's where you can buy me just a one-off coffee if you like, or you can join the private buyers club, which has got a limited number. It's a maximum of 100, but in the 50s at the moment. But I won't go more than 100 because I want to make sure I can always answer all your questions. At least 2 private live streams a month, at least 2. A bit sporadic sometimes, but and what's really fun is that you're actually able to join me on screen in those live Q&As, sometimes just on audio like Housing Stig does, sometimes video as well. And the feedback I'm getting from the members of that is actually, it feels much more like sitting around the table in a pub having one-to-one conversation. So very different from these public live streams. So if you really want your questions answered, join that club or consider joining that club. And if you, as a few of you have done, there's also the opportunity to buy a 1-hour face-to-face video call with me also on that link. And a few of you have done that, and that's been really interesting, actually. I had a couple of famous people do it. It was really cool. People who are in current TV series, like major well-known TV series, are watching. So to all of you, there's actually been quite a few well-known people who've contacted me, private messages or otherwise, which is quite flattering and very exciting. So I was delighted to be able to help you guys. So you can also buy it 1 hour with me privately there if you want. But without further ado, I'm going to answer. There's one private message I got on Twitter, which I am going to answer now, because I think this is quite a general situation for a lot of buyers in this situation now. So this is a private message I got just today, keeping the person's identity and location anonymous. And he says, "Hi Charlie, I'm in rented, having sold, and a rare house has come on, but I think it's overpriced. If I go in under asking price, how can I maximize the chance that the agent comes back to me if another buyer comes along and offers more, brackets, unexpectedly? I don't want to overpay, but I don't want to miss out." Now, that is the dilemma facing every buyer who finds, as this chap has described this house, a rare house. Now, if it's a rare house, rare is probably also sought after. You have to assume there's going to be competition. And if it's rare, the chances of people who are in a position to do so, knowingly overpaying because they're happy to pay what I call the certainty premium, is higher. And so what you're up against is this. How much do you want that house? Because if you really, really, really want that house and you can actually afford the asking price and you think there are going to be other people buying, don't make the mistake that is the most common mistake people make in the situation, which is thinking it's overpriced, I'm going to offer under. Someone else offers asking price, you lose it, and then you kick yourself going, you know what, I would have paid asking price to get the house. It's so rare, they never come along. That would have been perfect for me. And it's all you can do. And in fact, some of the people who've had the private one-to-one videos with me have been in the situation where they found a very rare opportunity. They were in a financial position to buy it. They were happy to pay a small certainty premium, but didn't want to overpay too much. And they were finding it very difficult to figure out what to pay. And whilst I didn't give them a number, because I never ever do that, I can't ever suggest a number to you, I did help them with the thought process. They ended up making an offer that was just slightly over asking price, and they got it. So the answer to this chap is, your question is, how can I maximize the chance of the agent coming back to me if another buyer comes along and offers more unexpectedly? I mean, the agents are going to do that anyway, because remember, it's an agent's job is to get the highest price. So if someone else comes along with a higher offer and you've already made one, he's going to come back to you and say, we've got a higher offer. Do you want to match it? Do you want to exceed it? They're usually going to do that. So, but if that's the case, and if you don't make your maximum comfortable offer, honestly, this is my number one most frequent piece of advice to buyers. And it is also the number one most frequently ignored, disregarded, or not understood. And I get why. It's extremely difficult, right? People come back and say, Charlie, I offer my maximum comfortable offer. They've come back and they've said that they can't accept it, but they would accept 5k more. I can't afford to pay 5k more. What do you think I should do? And I always think to myself, if you could have afforded to pay 5k more, then that's the offer you should have made at the beginning, because otherwise you risk someone else getting it for that price. And the truth is that often we tell ourselves this is our max comfortable price, and we convince ourselves that's the case. And then we find out that actually we could pay more. So the answer to this chap's question is, to maximize your chances of securing that property, imagine the scenario where you lose out to someone else for a bit more money and you kick yourself and go, I would have paid that much for it. Because if other people are offering that price for the house, that is the current market value for the house, right? The market value is determined by what bids come in. And rare homes will sell, especially if they're well priced. So, you've got to go through the list of checks, like, can I handle it if prices now fall another 15, 20% over the next few years? How long am I going to live here for? How secure are my finances? All of those things are personal, which is why your maximum comfortable price is exclusive to you. It's got nothing to do with the property, right? I've had another question today. I saw someone asking me, how much should I offer? What's the way to work out the price of the house? It doesn't matter. You've got to work out what your maximum comfortable price is. That's your bid for the property. And if it's the highest bid, you'll get it. And if it's not, you won't. So you don't want to overpay, but you don't want to miss out. Overpaying is a subjective thing that's personal to each individual buyer. All right. You will know. Let me just elaborate on the context of overpaying. Overpaying is a personal thing. So let's just pick a price. Let's say £300,000 for a particular property. £300,000 might be overpaying for one person, but not for another person, because they're in different financial situations, or one of them wants to buy it and stay there for life, whereas one of them wants to buy it and leave within five years. So how much is overpaying, again, is a personal amount. Do you see? If you are borrowing a large amount of the purchase price and you want to move in a couple of years' time and you're paying asking price, you are probably overpaying because you won't be able to move because you'll be in negative equity, I think, in a couple of years' time, typically. Not with all properties, but typically. Whereas if you're paying cash and you want to live there forever because perhaps you're downsizing, then it's not the same amount, isn't overpaying, because prices will come down, then they'll flatten out, then eventually they'll come back up. But it just doesn't matter if you're planning to stay there. So not overpaying is as individual and personal and as subjective a question or a calculation as all other considerations about buying a property. This is what makes this marketplace, the housing market, so unlike any others. So let me just have a quick look at your comments. Oh, lots of you there tonight. And I want to run through a few things about the market, because the title of this evening's talk is everything fine or are we fucked? The last month or two has genuinely astonished me with how strong the force is with the people who do not believe house prices are falling, who do not want house prices to fall, and who are trying to talk house prices up. And I think a significant proportion of the reason that happens is from people who have to believe that house prices aren't falling, because otherwise it threatens their job or their investments or their credibility or any other thing. And so they aren't consciously saying that prices are going up whilst knowing that they're not going up. It's what they've kind of forced themselves to believe. It's that delusion. But it's so strong, isn't it? And the house price indices that have been coming out have shown, Halifax has shown it going up, Nationwide and the Land Registry show it going down, and Rightmove's asking prices went up like 0.2%. But again, asking prices aren't actual prices, remember that. But even Rightmove said that's 1%, a 1% lower rise than is typical for this time of year. So that was something. But and to all of you who are new here, I did a video a few videos ago called How to Work Out. I did it with Housing Stig. We sat down in person in London and did it. And it's about how to calculate what house prices are doing without using the media and only using verifiable government data. And it talks about the relationship between wage growth or shrinkage and interest rates and new mortgage approvals. And Housing Stig crunched the numbers for the last 20 something years it was, and there was a 98% correlation between those three figures and house prices. And so real wages are now shrinking, and real wages are the number one contributor to what happens to house prices. If wages are growing, house prices grow. If real wages are shrinking, house prices come down. It's like clockwork, right? And inflation, which is the biggest shrinker of our wages, is remaining stubbornly high for much longer than many market commentators, not including me and Alex, predicted or expected. It's sticking. It's really sticking. And if it does stick and continues to stick, it's going to just make our finances and the economy so difficult to turn into positive growth. Okay, and you keep hearing this, oh well, maybe we're going to avoid recession, and so's revising their forecasts up, and you hear this left right like a tennis match. They're going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down. But when you zoom out and look at the big picture, there just isn't any credible source of economic growth anywhere on the horizon at the moment. I wish there was, because this is bad news for people's jobs. It's bad news for small businesses. And just being dispassionate about it, ignoring the media and just looking at the numbers that come out, the numbers are horrific. If you actually look at the big picture of the economic numbers and understand the truth about the last 15 years or whatever it is, and the fact that our economic growth, or GDP, has struggled to average 1% despite quantitative easing and almost free interest rate borrowing. We've just been limping since the last financial crisis. And the stimulus has kind of run out of puff. But a lot of you are thinking, well, hang on, Charlie, but like you said last year, house prices are going to collapse, and it doesn't feel like they are collapsing. And I get that. And let's talk about that. Let me have a sip of tea. I'd also like to just quickly, for all the new people following, quick reminder of who I am. I am someone who's spent the last 20 to 25 years working alongside the property moving industry as a supplier of technology and marketing services to residential estate agents around the country, in particular CRM systems that give me an upfront and up close and personal view of what's actually happening at the coalface in the estate agencies for whom I provide those technology products. And so I've got a unique perspective, and I'm someone who likes to actually find the truth, whatever it may be, good or bad. And therefore, unlike lots of others, I saw what was happening. It was actually this time last year. It was May last year that I actually sounded an alarm bell in a video to a estate agent and said, guys, the market's definitely coming off and we have peaked. And that's what has happened. It feels like it's happening incredibly slowly, especially for certain areas of the market. And first-time buyers actually are the ones finding it the most frustrating, waiting for prices to come down. Because first-time buyers' budgets have been hit by mortgage lending and by mortgage lending costs dramatically. And so that's where you have the Mexican standoff between sellers and buyers. We've had transaction numbers dropping, and there's a lot of uncertainty swirling around. Any tiny glimmer of good news, and people go, "Oh, great, everything's fine again. It's all fine. It's going to be fine," and it just isn't. And if you zoom out and look at the big picture of news, and I'm going to go through a few bits now, you'll see. Well, let's get into it. Let's have a look. In no particular order. Let's start with this. Bear with me while I just share my screen correctly. Here we go. Sorry, let's try and get it to the right size on the screen. So this is on Bloomberg. This was yesterday or day before. UK mortgage rates triple in nasty shock for homeowners. I have linked to, I think, all of the things I'm about to show you. I've linked to in the description below, so you can go and check them out for yourselves. Okay, I'm not going to spend long on these, but I just wanted to give you a current snapshot where we are at the end of April. So we're in the beginning of Q2 or entering the middle of Q2 2023, and about 1.4 million mortgages will be refinanced this year, and most of them currently have rates below 2%. 1.4 million mortgages being refinanced. Most of them have rates below 2%, right? That's hard numbers to ignore, okay? Housing affordability crisis brewing in the UK. So there is a lot more downward pressure on prices to come. And in my mind, there's absolutely no doubt about that. And they're saying it's expected to peak in the next couple of months with 371,000 loans. So to put that into context, right, there are roughly 80,000 transactions a month happening. So that's 4 months worth of transactions in the whole of the UK. have their mortgages coming up for renewal between April and June. So in other words, in Q2, okay? So in Q2, there are going to be roughly 240,000 transactions total, but 371,000 existing loans are coming up for renewal in the next 3 months, right? Those mortgages were secured before the Bank of England embarked on the fastest tightening spree. Most of them currently have rates below 2%, according to the ONS, and will be renewed at rates that are up to 3 times higher. Okay, so that's 370,000 people that are about to see their mortgage payments potentially, well, shoot up very, very high anyway. So go and have a look at that story yourself if you want to. Now, some people will count this on the next point. Money Facts, which is a website that looks at the residential mortgage market. Product availability soars. Now, that doesn't mean that demand is soaring. It means that the availability of mortgage products is increasing. And Money Facts, am I showing the right tab? I never have. Yeah, I am. Here we are. Cool. So the product choice rose month on month to 5,100 options, which is above 5,000 for the first time since May last year. So almost a year since there were this many mortgage products. Now, what is the reason for that? Within the loan to value tiers, the 60% loan to value tier is the highest level. The 85% saw the largest rises over the month. So good. Okay. Again, I've put the link to that. Go and have a look at it. So there are two interpretations of that. Someone might go, wow, there must be so much demand for mortgages that they're bringing out new products. My reading of it is the number of new mortgages being taken out has dropped so sharply, 37% according to Bank of England figures year on year, right? So if you think all mortgage lenders make their money lending, they make their money, their profit, lending money for mortgages, and there are 37% fewer of those happening. Well, if your sales drop 37%, that's a problem for you, right? So there are more people putting products back in the market to try and get. It's quite complicated. They've got to lend the money without overexposing themselves to risks. So there are more and more products coming out to try to tempt people to borrow. Okay, that's my view of it. So that's something else that I thought was worth mentioning. Now, one of the biggest lenders, Santander, put a story out today, I think it was, today or yesterday, and this is on the Evening Standard website. Santander braces for 10% plunge in house prices and rising borrower defaults. Okay, the UK bank put £321 million aside for bad debts in 2022, including a further 65 million in the fourth quarter ahead of a likely recession. That's 65 million quid in one quarter. If you think the average house prices are at 300 grand, that's 600. That is a lot of defaults that they're expecting. A lot of defaults. My mental arithmetic is not quite good enough. 65 million, 300 grand, 600 grand, 100. But yeah, go and check that out if you want to read it yourself. Because I think when Santander puts a story out saying that's what they're expecting, and these are the guys normally talking the market up the most, that to me is fairly strong evidence that the house price falls this year will be more than 10%. Can you remember the end of last year, the end of 2022, there was something going, well, yes, maybe they'll be down 7%. These guys weren't forecasting 10% falls this time last year. So they're all increasing their downward side, okay? And that's Santander saying that despite Halifax's weird house prices going up that they've been saying. Now, today, Taylor Wimpey put out their trading statement, and Persimmon did as well. I haven't had a chance to look at them all. But just as a snapshot, right, I think they've announced 450 layoffs, which is terrible news for those people and never ever good news. But the net private sales rate for I love the way they always word these. As the seasonally strong selling season has progressed, that's a lot of S's, isn't it? The seasonally strong spring selling season has progressed. We've seen an increase in overall year-to-date sales rate compared to that announced on 2nd of March. And you think, that just sounds good. The first line always makes it sound good. And then you go down and you look at the actual numbers, and what they're saying is, I just want to double check. I've got this on the screen here. Yeah, I'm just going to make this go big so you can actually read it. Okay, because this is important. Disregard the guff, right? Those first two paragraphs are guff. Look at this. Look at the guff here. Paragraph 2. Targeted marketing spend has enabled us to maintain customer interest at healthy levels. Well, that sounds good, doesn't it? How healthy are those levels then? Let's look at the numbers. Our net private sales rate for the year was 0.75. That compares to 0.97 last year, right? With a cancellation, so in other words, that's down almost 25% on last year. That's a big drop from an industry that's just had year-on-year rises since the last house market crash. And then they go on to say sales in the period include planned bulk deals, and excluding bulk deals, our net private sales rate for the year was actually 0.66. And I think this is sales per week per site. It's a metric, something like that, right? So 0.66 compared with 0.97 the last year, right, excluding their bulk deals, which aren't private sales, that's an almost 30% drop. Okay, that's just the numbers. That's their own numbers. So you can make of that what you will about what you think's happening to house prices moving forward when they're saying they're having to lay off hundreds of staff. This next part was actually something I discussed. This is not brand new news. This is information from the Census. Sorry, I'm being silly. So many. This is the ONS. I've linked to it below in the description. And let's just go back here. It's a very long thing, and it's really interesting. If you really want to understand the housing market, go and have a look at the Census report for a just totally objective, impartial view of the housing market, because it talks about things like, so the one thing I picked up here is occupancy rating. So people go, there's a housing shortage only because if you look at it, in England 68% and in Wales 76% are under occupied properties, right? So over 2/3 of all properties are under occupied, meaning the bedrooms aren't being used. Okay. Grey, occupancy rating of 0, means they are under occupied or over occupied. So the grey levels are the proportion of properties, the percentage of households where they're neither under occupied nor over occupied, and the green ones are occupancy rating of -1, which means overcrowded. Okay. So we've got about 4% of housing is overcrowded, and whatever that is, 2%, 3% in Wales. Now, what's happening as the baby boomer demographic starts to reach the end of their natural life, and therefore the number of deaths from natural causes of elderly people is starting to increase, we are going to see an increasing number of these larger properties coming back onto the market in coming years. And actually, there's going to be, I still am a massive advocate of building new homes, right, to ease the housing crisis. But there's going to be an easing of this problem as more and more of those larger properties come up for sale, which will also put downward pressure on prices. But there is likely to be, if you look at the projection for birth rate and population growth, it's easing. And it's predicted to actually start to go negative population growth, I think, in 2025 or 2026. So we might, this is not a solution for anyone who's suffering right now from not being able to afford to buy or rent a home. But it's 3 years until the problem might start to go into reverse if the population and growth rate forecasts are accurate. And I don't know if they are. I thought that'd be interesting. Anyway, now, I wanted to also share with you, because I think it's helpful. So this is Best Agent. So again, for those of you who are new, I'm also the founder and owner of the website bestagent.co.uk, which is a new kind of national property website listing all homes for sale and to let. It is new. It's in beta, but it's still listing all the properties. There is some out-of-date stuff on there, which we're working on improving the way it runs. I won't bore you with how it works now, but if you're looking to find an estate agent, or if you're looking to buy a home, please go and check it out and give me feedback. That you will find problems with it, but overall, I'm trying to bring along a website that actually removes all of the industry guff and actually is a website that is first and foremost intended to benefit movers. All the other websites at the moment are there for the benefit of their owners and the agents that advertise them on them, and are controlled by the agents to an extent because agents pay subscriptions. Agents don't pay any subscriptions to be on Best Agent, which is why it's got 100% property on there, which means that we have much more control over the listings. And you can take down fake listings, you can take down unavailable listings just by flagging them as unavailable. But let me just, so I've got this data, which is the whole of the country. And this is updated today. And we are in the process of formulating the Best Agent house price index and what information it's going to contain. And one of the things that we are really zoning in on as making it a big deal is to actually get people to talk about the median price, not the average price. Because the average price is genuinely misleading. So average asking prices, genuinely misleading and very unhelpful. Median asking prices, I mean, look at the difference in that, right? On 269,000 total homes for sale, which is, by the way, up 5% on just a week ago. Okay, so sales stock continues to climb. The median asking price is 320,000 and the average is 430,000. Now, I won't bore you with the differences, what the difference is between average and median, but the median price is a much more indicative and usable number. Nobody else uses median prices. Ask yourself why, right? Why doesn't Rightmove show its median asking price? It should do. But more importantly, as we monitor this data on an ongoing basis, this first line here is unsold properties listed as for sale and their asking prices. The line below is properties that are still publicly listed as for sale, publicly listed, but they are marked as sold or sold subject to contract or under offer. They're no longer showing as for sale. And look at the difference in the prices between unsold stuff on the top line and sale agreed stuff on the bottom line. All right. The sale agreed price. So first of all, the average sale agreed price is, what is that? £85,000 lower. So that this is the average public asking price for properties that are sale agreed is 85 grand lower than the average public asking price for unsold properties. Make of that what you will. But the median price is £280,000 for properties showing as sold. That's not the price they've sold at. That's the asking price they were showing when they were advertised as sale agreed. Okay. And what's interesting is that is very close to the land registry average transaction price, much closer, like within about 10,000 quid, I think. So I think it's from memory, it's 287,000 was the most recent land registry. So we're going to continue watching this closely and focusing on it as what we hope will become the most useful house price index available. Now, again, this is only asking prices, right? And the land registry is obviously completed actual prices, but there's a big time lag. But this, I'm hoping, will be quite different from everything else. It'll be different from the RACS monthly housing market survey. It doesn't actually put numbers on anyway. That's just a sentiment survey. It's much more up to date than the land registry figures. And it is much, much more helpful than this average asking price of over £430,000, because the average asking prices can be so distorted by just a few outlying properties. And that's why I think that just watching these average and mean differences and the differences between unsold stuff and sold stuff is helpful. That's just for England. And we've got lettings down there as well, the same concept. We've got Wales as well. So this is Wales. And in Wales, again, look at massive differences. So the average asking price for all properties for sale in Wales of unsold properties is 300 grand. The average asking price for properties showing a sale agreed is 10% lower than that. But the median price, 245, is the median asking price for unsold stuff, and 220,000 average asking price for stuff showing as sold. All right. What do you think about that, guys? And then I've got one more quick question for you. I'd love to know what you guys think about these prices as a more useful house price index for movers. Is it actually going to be more helpful to use these numbers? I'd love to know. So pop it in the comments. Let me know what you think. Now, I've got one more question for you that I put on Twitter today. And it's about something that we're considering doing on Best Agent on the website, which is quite contentious because there are people who won't like it, like sellers and agents wouldn't like it. But I think it would make for a more transparent marketplace. And transparency improves liquidity, improves deals, it improves trust. And I think it would help the market if we were to do this. So here is a property that's on Best Agent, right? This is a recently listed property on Best Agent in Plymouth. And what I'm thinking about doing is there's a Chrome plugin that does it. It shows you a property's previous prices if it was listed with higher prices, so you can see the asking price history. But you need a Chrome plugin to do that. What I'm thinking about doing is actually, we've got that data, right? So we have all the previous asking prices for all these properties. I'm not going back very, very far, but going back far enough to be of use. And so what I'm thinking about doing is actually showing the asking price history on this page. What do you guys think if we were to do that on all properties? Would that be contentious? Would it be? So machine says yes, do this. I mean, if there are any agents or sellers watching this, I'd love to know what your thoughts. How would you feel about asking price history being shown on a private site? I mean, I get agents who, there are agents who rely on overvaluing to get business who are going to hate it. Yes, Annie, I think it's property log. Definitely a good idea. Right, can anyone, if you are a seller, could you identify yourself as a seller? I know buyers, obviously buyers all think it's a great idea. And I actually did do a poll on Twitter. I haven't looked at the results of it. Should we get the results up? Look at the results. Okay, so this is the result. 92% of 215 votes show asking price history. Okay, Sam, you've just sold. Would you have been happy with your asking price history showing on Best Agent property website? Do it. Just so, Luke, you've just sold. Congratulations. How would you have felt, Luke, about your asking price history showing? I mean, if you priced sensibly and sold it quickly, you're probably going to say that would have been fine by me. Oh, that's a very clever question. AW07 says, with that asking price history, does it include asking prices from a different agent a month before? Is that Chrome plugin doesn't show that? You're correct. It doesn't. And the answer is yes, we would be able to show that property's asking price with previous agents too. Now, it is contentious, and I get why a lot of people wouldn't like doing it. But the thing is, the only people who wouldn't like it are people with wildly over-optimistic prices who don't want to have to concede the fact they've had to drop their asking price, because publicly dropping your asking price is never a nice thing to do. David Miller says, excellent idea, but it won't happen. Why? David, why do you think it won't happen? It's up to me. This is the beauty of owning this business, Best Agent, and not having any investors or vested interest people to stop me, right? It's a bit like Elon Musk owning Twitter. He can do what he likes with it. I can do what I like with Best Agent. So what makes you say that it won't happen? I'd be really curious to know why you think it won't happen. Jordan Simmons says, works both ways. Transparency is best for everyone. Yes, there's another. We're going to do a video on leaseholds before too long. Let me just see your other comments on this. Gary Stewart says, there's a ton of high-value properties coming to the market, which is misleading average prices. Correct. So Sam says, my house was South Manchester, sold for 328,000, put it on the market for 345,000. So Sam, would you have minded that price drop being published or not? Zoopla also shows percentage price reduction. Oh, okay. That's quite new then if it does. Says Bob Clements. Does it show each of the does it just show the most recent reduction? Because they do always say price reduced. But do they actually have the whole history? So if someone's reduced, does it show that? Or just the percentage reduction of the last drop? David's calling my bluff, says AW07. Yeah, well, go for it. That's good. I mean, if we decide to do this, we'll do it. Alex W says, what about the Guff merch? No one's buying my Guff merch. I don't know why. It's on the YouTube page. I thought we were going to sell lots of it, but we haven't sold. We've hardly sold any. It's just been a handful of T-shirts and stuff. So we're a bit disappointed that no one's been buying Disregard the Guff merch, the bag, the T-shirt, the mugs. So I'd love to know why. I think if you're on YouTube, there is merch on the YouTube page. I'm not sure. Guy says, why don't you use the average for best agent, but remove the top and bottom 5% house prices? Yeah, something we have considered doing. But there are arguments against that as well. Okay. Mo Noor says, all the wage data and economic data makes sense, but are you not ignoring net immigration data? No, I'm not ignoring it. If you actually look at the long term, I mean, everyone got fixated on last year's freak and anomalously high net immigration figure of 500,000, which was 70% of that was a backlog of students coming to study in universities who couldn't come during COVID. So it was a freak year. And if you got to take into account that alongside the net death rate. So the only thing that matters, right? It doesn't matter whether a buyer was born here or is an immigrant. All that matters is the total number of people buying houses versus the total number of houses for sale, right? And as I said earlier on in the video, our population, I mean, the birth rate for people born, so in other words, for parents who are born here, the birth rate is in decline. So our whole population would be declining and our economy would be collapsing without immigration. That's just a statistical fact, okay? Immigration, on balance, is a net positive contributor to our economy, right? To our taxes. The government would be struggling to pay taxes if there weren't immigrants coming in here, working, earning tax and paying their taxes. So it just, it's like, what does it matter where the demand is coming from? To me, it's just like, I don't think, first of all, I don't think many of the immigrants are turning up with huge amounts of money and coming in and bidding up prices. I haven't seen any evidence for that. There are pockets of it where you get people coming from Hong Kong. So there are certain places where, because of Hong Kong, the exodus of expatriates from Hong Kong coming back to the UK is having an effect in some localized markets where they're choosing to go, but not enough to move the whole market. But, despite the 500,000 immigrants last year, house prices started falling last year, right? Because house prices don't know who's buying the house and whether they're from inside the country or outside the country, right? And if the birth rate were to go up again, that would also create additional demand, right? If our domestic birth rate went up. So to me, a lot of people, I'm sorry, I'm not saying that there aren't problems with illegal immigration that need to be solved. Of course there are. But I'm saying that a lot of people get totally fixated and think that immigration is the only reason the house prices are going up. And it's not. It just isn't. It just isn't. I'll do actually, when I get a chance, I'll do a video with Housing Stig on this topic, and we'll get the numbers out and we'll explain to everybody so you can just see the hardcore numbers and then make up your own minds about whether or not immigration on its own is causing house prices to go up. Next question. Can we go back to... Liam Jones says, is there a way of seeing sold STC fall-through sales? There is actually, not publicly. We do have that data, yes. Okay, that's an interesting one. Dr. Mop's sister. Agent told me to start low price offers over, but it felt dishonest to me, so I put it to offers over my minimum figure. I didn't want the site to show I'd increased the price. It's very unusual for agents to tell you to start with a low price, but they're actually right. Because the lower the initial asking price, the more inquiries you get. And the more inquiries you get, the more competing bidders you've got. And the more competing bidders you've got, the higher price you achieve. This is a problem with sellers where even with people I know and love dearly, it makes me want to smash my face repeatedly into a brick wall. Because something in their head, even when I've explained with 25 years of evidence to back this up, that this never fails as the way to find the maximum current market price today for selling your property, and that putting in an optimistic asking price is guaranteed to reduce the number of inquiries on your property and guaranteed to put people off thinking it's overpriced and they won't come back later when you drop the price. Despite all my years of evidence and impartiality, something in sellers' minds makes them still go, yeah. I hear what you say. I hear what you say, Charlie. I do, but we're just gonna try it. We're gonna try that. Okay, so you haven't listened then. You haven't listened. So Dr. Mop's sister, that agent was giving good advice. There's nothing dishonest about that, right? Putting a low price and saying offers over. There's nothing dishonest about that, I don't think. So I'm curious to see why you see it felt dishonest. AW07 says, what is my availability like on one-on-ones? I can usually get to a one-on-one within 3 or 4 days of it being booked. So yeah, at the moment I've got okay availability, but not a lot of availability. Yeah, nobody wants to show that they were over-optimistic. The only people would. Okay, but you see, I still think the transparency of having the asking price up there would actually result in the market functioning better than it does. No one can deny that the market does not function well at the moment, neither for movers nor for honest agents. Yeah, I had a message. So Lil Gomez 96 says, first time buyers at the bottom of the market. Loads of landlords just dumped their properties at high asking price in the last month. I viewed them all in poor condition. I sense a panic. Seen 6 in the last week. You're the second person I've heard say that today. Someone else sent me a message saying they've just gone back out, started viewing, and all the properties that they were viewing were being put onto the market by landlords. Okay, cool. Well, if Zoopla does show, if people are saying Zoopla shows all historical listing and sold prices, well, if that's the case, then it's not going to be that contentious if we put it. But I'm actually about putting it on that property page itself. Any other questions? Does anyone have a question that they want to ask? No, Norlis. Don't be mean about estate agents. Norlis has put a joke up. I am here as an independent arbiter and umpire of the shit fight that happens between movers and agents. And I can tell you that there is some shockingly bad behavior amongst agents, and there are some terrible estate agents out there. But there are also some very, very good, honest, hardworking ones. They're just hard to find, and that's why I built Best Agent to try and fix the problem. But there are also an equal proportion of appallingly badly behaved movers. Some of the stories I hear from agents about how badly movers behave are equally bad as the worst stories you ever hear about agents. Honestly, some movers out there give just as good as they get in terms of behaving really appallingly badly. Just looking for questions now. So Amy M says, so is everything fine or are we fucked? Good question. And you're right, that was the title of the video. In terms of house prices, I hope I'm just showing you that I remain more confident than ever that house price falls will indeed reach nominal 35% drop from the peak of last year to the trough sometime in 2025. Nothing has changed my mind on that. I'm open every single day to look at it, but nothing's changed my mind on that. It does feel slow, but even the land registry's published month-on-month house price falls were showing 1% month-on-month. And the average house price monthly fall during the last steepest house price falls in 2008 were 1.2 or 1.3% per month. And the land registry's figures are for 5 months ago, so actually still showing for before the deals agreed before the mini budget. So we are going to see worse house price falls, which means the same rate as 2008 and worse coming, I think. In terms of the economy, yes. Alex and I, Housing Stick and I, did a video called Death in Poverty. If you haven't seen it, go and look it up, right? That video explains why, as a country, I'm afraid, unless someone pulls something out of the bag, and I do hope that they do, as a country, we are witnessing decimation of people's disposable income, crushing reductions in the value of our money because of inflation, falling job vacancies, rising unemployment, lack of any new... I heard an interview on Radio 4 with the chief executive of a graphene-based semiconductor company in Cambridge. And this is a world-leading company saying, we're waiting for the government to make up their mind about what we're going to get. And until we know, we can't get on with our plans. We're twiddling our thumbs. And the government is missing an opportunity to actually help one of our country's few leading industries actually take hold and make the most of it. Aviation is booming, and we do have a big sector. I think that the film and TV production industry in this country has been booming for a while as well. That might be peaking at the moment. I think a lot of Netflix and Amazon and Apple, the guys making huge amounts of money, spending huge amounts of money on those productions. But there's a relatively niche industries for a country as a whole: aviation and entertainment. For everyday people looking for everyday jobs, that's not going to help. At the moment, yes, go and see the video Death in Poverty to answer why in the long term I think we are. AW07 asks, how soon can you secure a mortgage product after having an offer accepted? Lil Gomez 96 has said quite correctly, you need a mortgage in principle. So I saw an agent actually put a video on TikTok the other day saying, please, if you get your mortgage in principle before you start viewing, so that if you have an offer accepted, you don't then have to wait while you spend several weeks getting your mortgage in principle lined up, right? So this is a lovely opportunity for me to promote my mortgage partners. If you are competing with another buyer on a property and that buyer's got their mortgage in principle already in place and you haven't, and your offers are the same, the other buyer will get the property and you won't. It costs you nothing to get your mortgage in principle ready. Sorry, that's not entirely true. If you go with my guys, they do charge a fee. The fee I don't think becomes payable until you've got the mortgage offer. So you can have a conversation with them and it doesn't cost anything. By the way, guys, Tuesday night next week, live Q&A with the mortgage brokers on this channel. They'll be taking live mortgage questions. They are both licensed, authorized mortgage advisors and therefore can take specific mortgage questions, which I can't. It's going to be a very exciting update. It's been much too long since we last had them on last autumn. I want to get them on more like monthly if I can. I'll be publishing it on social media and stuff, but Tuesday evening next week, 7:30, live Q&A with my mortgage partners. If you are a buyer right now and you haven't got a mortgage in principle lined up, please go to mhwc.co.uk/mortgage, also linked to below in the description. Put your details in there, which puts you straight in touch with, these are hand-picked guys because I trust them. I trust them not to oversell you products to maximize commission, but to actually advise you on getting stuff that's right for you personally now and in the long term. These are guys, and so far, the hundreds of people who've been talking to them have given me fantastic feedback. The only negative feedback I've had about them has been sometimes they can be a bit slow to respond. They get really, really busy, but that's not a problem I'm overly worried about at the moment. I think they're up to speed, but otherwise the feedback has been those guys are fantastic. So if you do end up taking a mortgage with them, I do get a kickback from them at the end, which helps support this channel. But if you don't have one, these are independent, whole of market mortgage brokers. So that 5,000 products, they have access to all of them. And the value that they bring is that the right product out of those 5,000 products is different for each individual person. And because they know what those products are changing almost daily, those products are changing, right? And that's what they've got the finger on the pulse on. And they will know the right product for you personally, based on your deposit, your situation, your employment, your age, your all those kind of things, right? So go and talk to those guys if you haven't already, because quite right, you shouldn't be offering without a mortgage in principle already lined up. Right. Oh my goodness me. We've got 3 minutes left. Quick question. Now, again, please, guys, if you've got questions you want to ask me, join the Private Buyers Club live Q&A. The link's on the screen there. buymeacoffee.com/MHWC. Otherwise, got time for one or two more questions. Jimmy Davis asks, what's my prediction for interest rates this time next year? I don't have one. I'm not an interest rate predictor expert. But my guess, my uneducated guess, my amateur, unprofessional, uneducated guess on interest rates next year is that they are probably still going to be around about where they are now, having gone up beforehand, because they're going to go up at the next meeting because of inflation, I'm pretty sure. Why Ace? Should we just all flee the UK? Personal decision. Wouldn't blame anyone. I think there are definitely better places to live, work, bring up a family now at the moment, on average. There are exceptions for that, of course, but MJ says, why does it take weeks to arrange a decision in principle? Go and have a go and see how long, and just see. It's just life, right? It's just, if you had nothing else to do, you could probably do it faster. But Paddy says, Charlie, how does this market still be so sticky, considering we have nothing, we've high inflation and now high interest, the fastest rate hike in history, but it feels we're no closer to the drops? The answer is this: it's the time it takes for the interest rates to feed through. Right? Me and Alex have said this again and again. He says 8 months. I think it's 8 months minimum. I think we are only just going to start feeling the full effects of interest rates on house prices and house price falls in July, August. That's when you're really going to start to see the true effects. It just takes such a long time. These transactions take a long time. From the moment someone thinks about, should we move house, start thinking about it, to actually moving into a new house is over a year. And even for a first-time buyer, it takes a long time. So it is crushingly frustrating for people waiting for prices to come down, especially first-time buyers. But guys, I think patience is going to pay off. I've got 60 seconds to stop this before it goes over an hour. I am going to call it here. Guys, thank you to all of you. Welcome to all the new followers. I hope that was an enjoyable live stream. I'm sorry it's been a while. I will be doing them more frequently again soon. I'll be doing some more morning stuff again soon as well. And I'm also going to be talking about maybe looking for one particular channel sponsor, just a channel sponsor, I think, that actually adds value to the channel as well as to me. I want to talk to you guys about that as well. Thank you very much. Have a great night. See you on the next one. And remember, disregard the guff. Buy now if you can afford to and you want a home. Just don't overpay. Speak to you on the next one, guys. And follow me on Twitter, moving_Charlie. If you don't, I update there every day. Moving_Charlie on Twitter. See you there. Bye, guys.